She discovered fragments of engineering philosophy, principles of resilience, endurance, and survival. Humans had always built to last, to adapt, to survive, not to conquer. The monster ship was the ultimate embodiment of these principles. It was massive, yes, but every component was designed for efficiency, adaptability, and control. It was not a weapon of aggression, it was a weapon of survival. As the Empire studied the human crew more closely, they realized the level of coordination and intelligence involved. The humans moved seamlessly between systems, repairing damage, adjusting engines, and controlling defensive fields. Nothing was wasted. Every action was deliberate, precise, and purposeful. The Empire began to see that the humans' true power lay not in their weapons, but in their discipline, strategy, and intelligence. John Carter made the decision to attempt a cautious approach. A transport vessel carrying a small crew, including himself, Lisa Moore, and Alex Bennett, moved toward the monster ship under strict protocols. They approached slowly, avoiding sudden movements, and sent a signal indicating peaceful intentions. The monster ship responded not with weapons, but with movement, opening a docking pathway that allowed the transport vessel to approach safely. The human crew aboard the monster ship had acknowledged their presence, and the Empire realized that the humans were willing to communicate. Commander Ryan Cole, the human leader of the ship, greeted them when they arrived. He was calm, collected, and intelligent, moving with quiet authority. "We have observed your fleet," he said. "We understand your fear. We do not seek war, but we must be ready to defend ourselves. Humanity has survived through endurance, intelligence, and restraint. We act only when necessary." John Carter felt a mixture of awe and fear. These humans had built and controlled a ship that could destroy his entire fleet, and yet they spoke with calm reason, not arrogance or aggression. The Empire representatives were allowed to explore sections of the ship. They saw systems far beyond their own technology, designs that were simple yet effective, and humans operating them with precision. Claire Adams, a human diplomat, explained their philosophy. "Humanity has always built to survive," she said. "We are small, scattered, and often ignored. We learn that survival depends on intelligence, restraint, and understanding. This ship is a reflection of that. It is powerful, yes, but we do not seek to conquer. We only act to endure and protect ourselves." The Empire listened, fascinated. They realized that humans had created something more than a weapon. They had created a lesson in control and restraint. The monster ship could have destroyed fleets, taken worlds, or conquered systems. And yet, it had chosen not to. The humans had taught the Empire, without words, that true power lay not in destruction, but in the choice to use it wisely. As days passed, trust grew cautiously. The humans allowed the Empire to study their technology, focusing on defensive systems, repair protocols, and energy efficiency. They did not share weapons capable of destruction beyond what the Empire already had. The humans' goal was not conquest. It was understanding, coexistence, and survival. John Carter and his crew were humbled by what they learned. The Empire had been proud of its fleets and weapons, but now they understood that they had misjudged humans entirely. The Empire realized that fear was not just of power, but of intelligence and restraint. Humans could destroy, yes, but they chose not to. The most terrifying thing about them was not their weapons or ships, but their patience, calculation, and ability to make deliberate choices. Every officer aboard John's ship felt the weight of this realization. The humans had changed the Empire's understanding of what strength meant. Commander Ryan Cole and his crew explained their motives further. We act only when necessary, he said. We test, observe, and measure. We repair when possible. Our goal is survival, not conquest. If the galaxy respects life, we can coexist peacefully. If not, we defend ourselves fully. The Empire absorbed this carefully. They realized that humans were teaching them a new way to measure power, not by weapons or numbers, but by intelligence, patience, and restraint. Over weeks of careful observation and communication, the Empire began to adopt human principles. Fleets moved with more caution. Colonies built defensive systems rather than aggressive weapons, and officers studied human philosophy. Why did you rename the fact that the Empire began to see that humans had survived and grown not because of strength alone, but because of intelligence, strategy, and the ability to choose when and how to act? The monster ship had been a teacher as much as a weapon. John Carter felt a strange mix of relief and fear. Humans were no longer a weak, scattered species. They were powerful, intelligent, and disciplined. The Empire had survived their test, but it had been humbled. Fear lingered, tempered by respect. The monster ship had shown them what humans were capable of, and the lesson would not be forgotten. Finally, after months of observation, the humans prepared to leave the edge of Imperial space. They had taught the Empire about intelligence, patience, and restraint. Their presence had changed the way the Empire measured strength and power. Fleets returned to standard patrols, but the memory of the monster ship remained. Humans had arrived quietly, tested the Empire, and left with dignity, leaving behind lessons that would shape the galaxy for generations. John Carter watched the massive ship glide away, the humans inside calm and deliberate. He realized that the most terrifying and awe-inspiring thing about them was not their size or firepower, but their ability to survive, endure, and make choices. The Empire had been tested, and it had learned a profound lesson. True power lay not in destruction, but in intelligence, restraint, and understanding. The Empire would never forget. Fleets, colonies, and officers carried the memory of humans and their monster ship. A lesson was clear: respect intelligence, honor restraint, and never underestimate the smallest species. The humans had commanded fear without firing a single shot, and in doing so they had forever changed the galaxy. The monster ship had returned to the edge of Imperial space, its massive frame gliding slowly past outposts and patrol fleets. For months it had tested, observed, and measured, and the Empire had learned more about fear than they ever had in centuries. Captain John Carter watched from his bridge as the massive vessel moved with calm precision. It could destroy the entire fleet in minutes, but it did not. The human crew had chosen restraint, and in that choice lay their power. The Empire called an emergency council. Generals, admirals, and strategists gathered in the largest chamber, their faces tense. Maps of space and ship movements flickered across the walls. Ben Parker, a senior strategist, spoke first. "We cannot fight them," he said. "We have seen their power. Their ships are too strong, too intelligent, and their patience, it is terrifying. If we attack, we will lose everything. And yet, they have not attacked us. They have tested, yes, but they have also healed some of our ships. They are not our enemies." Emma Wright, the historian, nodded. "They are human," she said quietly, "and humans do not fight like others. They build to survive, to endure, and to control." That monster ship terrified the Empire, but could it truly be human? Sci-fi, the first sign of trouble came as a flicker on the Empire's long-range scanners. At first it looked like a small anomaly, a stray cluster of debris drifting in the empty dark. Captain John Carter leaned over the console, squinting at the pale blue readout. The crew in the observation deck murmured quietly among themselves, feeling a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature.
"What is that?"
one of the young officers asked. The voice was barely audible over the hum of the engine core, but John caught it. He shook his head. "I don't know. Keep scanning. Alert the fleet." The anomaly grew larger and clearer with each passing minute. The sensors began to show a shape immense, jagged, and heavily armored. It was nothing the Empire had ever built or encountered. The ship seemed alive, moving with a purpose that was both strange and deliberate. The officers stared at the view screen, mouths open in silent fear. "It's huge," said Lisa Moore, the intelligence officer. Her voice was calm, but there was tension in her jaw. "That is not a standard vessel. It's a monster." The term spread quickly through the fleet like wildfire. That was what everyone began to whisper. Even those who had served in the far reaches of the galaxy in sectors where alien threats were common felt a knot in their stomachs. The ship moved with ease through the asteroid belts, slicing through debris like a blade through cloth. Every cruiser that tried to intercept it found itself outmaneuvered, its weapons disabled before they even had a chance to fire. John Carter watched helplessly as the massive ship demonstrated power that could destroy entire fleets in minutes, yet it did not fire a single shot. It simply moved. It observed. It tested. The Empire's high command was in chaos. Never before had they faced a species capable of threatening them so completely and choosing not to destroy them. The humans were not conquering worlds or fleets. They were teaching a lesson. Power was meaningless without control. John Carter felt a deep respect for the humans. He knew that if the galaxy had more leaders like them, there would be fewer wars, but also more fear. The Empire could never forget what they had learned. After weeks of careful negotiation and observation, the human ship finally allowed representatives of the Empire to approach. John and a small crew boarded a transport vessel and approached the massive monster ship. The human crew, smaller and human in appearance, moved with calm efficiency. Commander Ryan Cole greeted them, not with weapons, but with quiet authority. "We understand your fear," he said, "but we are not here to destroy. We are here to ensure survival. Humanity has learned to endure, to adapt, and to control. We share what we can, but we do not conquer." The Empire representatives were awed. The ship itself was massive, but the humans moved easily, their control precise, almost intuitive. It was clear that every system, every engine, every weapon was under deliberate control. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was reckless. It was terrifying in its simplicity and strength. John Carter realized that the humans had built a masterpiece of engineering, one that reflected their philosophy: survival, endurance, intelligence, and restraint. As talks continued, the humans offered technologies focused on defense and survival rather than destruction. They shared methods to repair ships quickly, to protect fleets without increasing firepower, and to strengthen planetary defenses without conquering other worlds. The Empire accepted, realizing that learning from humans was more valuable than fighting them. It was an alliance born of respect, not fear, and yet the fear lingered, a reminder of what humans were capable of. Ben Parker, the strategist, spoke during one session. "This changes everything. We have been measuring power in the wrong way. We assumed strength meant weapons and numbers. Humans have shown us that true power lies in control, patience, and intelligence. We have been humbled, and it is terrifying." Kate Wilson, an envoy, nodded. "They do not seek to rule or destroy. Yet we fear them more than any enemy. not because of what they do, but because of what they can do and choose not to. The humans explain their philosophy further. Claire Adams, a human diplomat aboard the ship, spoke gently but firmly. Humanity has learned the hard way that destruction can be easy, but survival requires thought, patience, and restraint. We build to endure, not to conquer. We test only to understand, not to destroy. If the galaxy respects that, we can coexist peacefully. If not, we defend ourselves with everything we have. The Empire began to change. Fleets were no longer deployed purely for aggression. Colonies began to study human techniques for survival and defense. Diplomats and historians wrote new doctrines, emphasizing intelligence and patience over raw strength. The monster ship had altered the Empire's understanding of power. It was no longer about domination. It was about control, intelligence, and choice. John Carter reflected on what they had learned. Humans had terrified the Empire without firing a weapon. They had forced the Empire to confront its own weakness and arrogance, and yet they had done so without malice, without conquest, and without destruction. It was the most profound lesson he had ever encountered in his long career. As the humans prepared to leave the edge of Imperial space, the Empire held a quiet ceremony of respect. John and other officers watched as the massive vessel glided silently toward the void beyond, humans moving calmly within, fully aware of their power, fully in control of it. The Empire felt a mixture of relief, awe, and lingering fear. They had survived, but they had also been changed forever. The galaxy itself seemed quieter after their departure. Colonies, fleets, and outposts reflected on the encounter. Humans were no longer seen as weak, insignificant, or irrelevant. They were feared, respected, and studied. Their lesson had been clear. Power without control was meaningless, and restraint could be more terrifying than destruction. In the Empire, John Carter walked the observation deck one last time before returning to standard patrols. He gazed at the stars and thought of the humans and their monster ship. They had arrived without warning, tested without malice, and left with dignity. And in that silence, the Empire understood that the most terrifying species in the galaxy was not the one with the largest weapons or the fastest fleets, but the one that had learned to endure, to survive, and to choose when and how to act. Weeks turned into months, and the memory of the monster ship remained. Every fleet, every commander, and every colony remembered the lessons humans had taught. The Empire reorganized its fleets, focused more on strategy, patience, and intelligence. They adopted new defensive technologies shared by humans. Historians wrote of the encounter, diplomats taught of the restraint shown, and soldiers carried the fear and respect for the humans into every mission. Commander Ryan Cole and his crew continued their journey, leaving a trail of awe and caution throughout the Empire. Humanity had proven that true power lay not in violence, but in control, understanding, and the ability to make choices. The galaxy had changed. The Empire had survived, and the humans, once considered weak, had shown the universe that they could command fear itself without ever raising a weapon. John Carter often thought of the monster ship and the humans who piloted it. He realized that the most lasting lesson was simple. Strength was meaningless without intelligence, and power was terrifying when combined with patience and restraint. The Empire had seen the future, and it was human. The monster ship had left, but its shadow remained, a reminder that the smallest species could teach the galaxy the greatest lesson of all, that fear and respect could be commanded not through destruction, but through understanding and control. The Empire never forgot. Fleets moved with caution, Diplomats negotiated with care, and every human settlement became a subject of study and respect. The galaxy had witnessed the most unusual lesson of all. The monster ship had terrified the Empire, yes, but it had also saved them from their arrogance, taught them restraint, and shown them a new way to measure true power. And in that lesson, humanity's legend grew, not as conquerors, but as masters of control, intelligence, and choice. The stars seemed quieter, almost reverent, as if acknowledging the human's departure. The Empire had survived, but it had also been humbled. Fear lingered, but it was tempered with respect. Humans were no longer the forgotten species at the edge of space. They were a force to be reckoned with, a teacher of the galaxy, and a reminder that the greatest power lay not in destruction, but in the restraint to choose wisely. And so, the galaxy moved forward, forever changed by the humans and their monster ship, understanding finally that terror need not come from violence, but from intelligence, patience, and the quiet, deliberate choice to survive and endure. The Empire had learned, and it would never forget. Fleets were ordered to form battle lines, to encircle the unknown vessel, and to prepare for immediate engagement. Yet every attempt to corner it failed. It was as if the ship could see all their movements before they even happened. It changed direction smoothly, slipping between cruisers with terrifying precision. Every officer on the bridge of John's ship felt the same dread. The Empire's strongest vessels were no match for this unknown enemy, and no one knew why it had not yet attacked. The fear was worse than destruction because it came with a mystery, something the Empire could not understand. John Carter called a meeting in the command chamber. The officers gathered around the central table, screens glowing with images of the monster ship in real time. "We need to understand what we are facing," John said, rubbing his tired eyes. "We don't know if it's a new alien species, a rogue weapon, or some ancient ship from before the Empire was formed. All we know is that it is powerful, and it is patient." Lisa Moore spoke up, her voice careful. "Sir, I have run simulations comparing it to known alien ships. Nothing matches. Its energy readings are different, the construction materials are unusual, and its maneuvering is almost human." The room went quiet. "Human?" someone repeated, incredulous. "We have no reason to assume it's human. Humans are considered primitive in the Galactic Council." Lisa shook her head. "I know, but patterns of behavior, the logic in its movements, it is deliberate, it is cautious, it does not attack unless necessary. That is human thinking. Nothing else we know works this way." The officers exchanged uneasy glances. They were trained to believe humans were weak, scattered, and insignificant. To hear that a ship of such scale and power might be human-made was almost impossible to comprehend. Yet the data spoke for itself. Every maneuver, every pause, every subtle adjustment the ship made was precise. It did not overreact. It did not panic. It was patient, in a way no other species had demonstrated. As the fleet continued to track the vessel, strange events began to unfold. Imperial ships that moved too close found their weapon systems failing, not through fire or damage, but through something more subtle. Power cores fluctuated, shields went offline temporarily, and sensors scrambled. Yet the monster ship did not fire. It seemed to test the Empire, to probe its defenses, to see how far it could push them. And in every test, the Empire failed. John Carter watched a cruiser drift silently after its shields failed, unable to move. He knew the crew inside could not fix the problem before the vessel would be destroyed if the monster ship attacked. Yet, after several tense minutes, the massive ship glided past, leaving the cruiser untouched. The message was clear. It had the power to kill, but it chose not to. The fleet breathed a collective sigh, but it was a shallow relief. Fear remained, sharper and deeper than before. How could something so powerful show mercy without reason? Who or what was behind the controls? Back on the observation deck, young officers whispered, "Maybe it's a god."
One said.
Another shook his head. "Now it's a machine." Nothing alive could be that big and move like that. Lisa Moore watched them quietly. She understood better than most that it was not a god. It was thinking. It was alive, but alive in a human sense, not biological perhaps, but deliberate, rational, and calculating. It was terrifying not because it destroyed, but because it could. The fleet's attempts to communicate were equally strange. Long-range transmissions bounced off the monster ship without a response. Then, unexpectedly, a signal returned. Not alien gibberish, not coded language, but structured patterns that seemed familiar. Alex Bennett, a junior analyst, studied the transmissions. "Sir, these signals, they're logical. They follow patterns we recognize. They almost feel human." John Carter frowned. "Human? Again with that? Are you saying we might be dealing with humans?" "It's impossible. Humans do not have the technology or the scale for something like that." Alex hesitated, then nodded. "I don't know how, sir, but everything points in that direction." The more the fleet observed the monster ship, the more the Empire began to understand that this was not a random threat. It was deliberate. It was cautious. It seemed to measure the Empire's strength, its will, and its intelligence. Yet it did not attack. In a galaxy where war was constant and decisions were often made in seconds, patience was an unknown concept. And this patience unnerved everyone. Rumors spread beyond the command decks. Messages reached outer colonies and border worlds. Tales of the monster ship circulated quickly, growing with each retelling. Some described it as a weapon of ancient alien races, others as a myth reborn, a legend from a time before the Empire existed. Farmers, traders, and miners who had never seen a warship stared at the sky and whispered the name, Monster Ship. They felt fear not because it had destroyed anything yet, but because its presence alone was a statement of power. Every hour he returned to the bridge, to the glowing outline of the ship on the monitors. It moved silently, smoothly, almost gracefully through space. He could not understand it. He could not predict it, and that made it dangerous. He thought of the Empire, proud and vast, yet vulnerable in the shadow of a single vessel. If this was the beginning of war, the Empire might not survive. And the thought that humans could be behind this, it was almost unbearable. Humans were supposed to be weak, insignificant, forgotten. Yet here they were, commanding a force that dwarfed anything the Empire had built. As the days passed, the monster ship's movements continued to baffle the Empire. It did not approach inhabited worlds, nor did it destroy supply lines or stations. It moved through the Empire's borders like a silent storm, testing defenses, studying fleets, and retreating before engagement. Its presence challenged everything the Empire believed about strength, strategy, and power. John Carter began to realize that fear was not simply a reaction to size or firepower. It was a response to intelligence, to patience, to the deliberate choices of something that could have ended them at any moment, yet chose not to. On the final day before the fleet was ordered to retreat, a small cruiser approached the monster ship on a reconnaissance mission. It drifted slowly, sensors wide open, scanners humming nervously. The crew inside whispered prayers they did not believe. hoping for nothing more than a glimpse of the unknown. As they closed in, the monster ship adjusted its position, rotating slowly to face the small vessel. Then, for a moment, the silence was absolute. The cruiser's sensors picked up the faintest energy pulse, a heartbeat of thought, deliberate and steady. It was not a weapon. It was awareness. The cruiser's captain, Peter Hayes, felt a chill run down his spine. "It's alive," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "It's thinking. It can see us."
It knows what we are. Lisa Moore's words echoed in John Carter's mind. Deliberate, restrained, human.
For the first time, the Empire began to see the truth, and the truth was frightening. This was a mind capable of understanding, of calculation, and perhaps of judgment. He ordered the fleet to pull back. There was no pride in retreat. There was no strategy in engagement. This was survival. The Empire had faced threats before, but never one that could understand them, study them, and choose not to kill them. Fear ran deeper than any battle wounds, deeper than any firepower, because it came with a question that had no easy answer. If this ship could destroy them, and yet did not, why? And what did it want? As the Empire retreated, the monster ship watched. Its presence lingered on sensors, a silent shadow over fleets that had always considered themselves invincible. For the first time in centuries, the Empire understood the meaning of terror. Not the terror of firepower, not the terror of speed, but the terror of intelligence, patience, and restraint. The monster ship, whether human or not, had shown them a new form of power, and the Empire shivered, knowing that the galaxy had just changed forever. The Empire had never retreated before, but now it had no choice. Captain John Carter's fleet moved slowly back toward the outer sectors, keeping the monster ship in view but refusing to engage. The massive vessel followed at a distance, silent and steady, like a shadow that refused to leave. Every officer on John's bridge felt the weight of its presence. It was not just large, or strong, or fast. It was aware. It observed, calculated, and waited. And that made everyone nervous. Lisa Moore studied the ship carefully, trying to understand it. She had been reviewing data from the past week, the logs of the fleet's encounters, and every action the monster ship had taken. It had not attacked a single inhabited world. It had not destroyed stations, convoys, or colonies. It had simply moved through Imperial space, testing, measuring, probing.
"It's not here to destroy us," Lisa said quietly, more to herself than to anyone else.
John Carter frowned. "Then why are we so afraid?" he asked. Lisa shrugged. "Because it could if it wanted. It could wipe out this fleet in minutes. But it hasn't. That means it can make choices, and no one knows why." In the Empire's communication centers, attempts were made to send messages to the monster ship. Standard protocols were used. Greetings, warnings, coordinates, even threats. Every message was met with silence until one unexpected transmission returned. It was not a reply in any known language. It was structured, patterned, and precise, but unintelligible at first. Analysts like Alex Bennett stared at the code. "Sir," Alex said nervously, "these signals, they're logical."
They follow rules, patterns we can understand.
"It's not random? Patterns we can understand?" John asked, rubbing his temple. "Like human logic?" Alex nodded slowly. "Yes. The sequences, the repetitions, they resemble human decision-making. I know humans are considered primitive by the Empire, but it's human." The suggestion was shocking. Humans had been ignored for centuries. They were scattered across a few fringe worlds, never advanced, never powerful. The Empire had never thought to take them seriously. Yet here, apparently, humans had built something that dwarfed entire fleets. John did not want to believe it, but the evidence was clear. He felt a chill in his chest. To think a species considered weak by the Empire had created this, it was almost impossible. As the fleet moved, strange things continued to happen. Small cruisers sent to scan the monster ship reported temporary system failures. Shields fluctuated, engines sputtered, sensors scrambled. Yet nothing was destroyed. No attack occurred. It was as if the ship was testing them, seeing what they were capable of, and deciding whether they were worthy. One day, a small reconnaissance vessel, the Horizon, was sent closer to the monster ship. It drifted slowly, engines on low power to avoid detection. On board, Captain Peter Hayes watched the massive form appear on their sensors. It was larger than any ship they had seen, jagged and dark against the void of space, with energy readings that made the crew uneasy. "It's beautiful," said one of the young crew members, though his voice trembled. "And terrifying," Hayes added. He could feel the silence of the ship almost pressing against his skin. It moved with purpose, gliding slowly but deliberately toward them. The sensors picked up something strange. The ship seemed to adjust to their movements before they even happened. A scan revealed energy pulses, weak and subtle, that were not weapons. They were signals, perhaps, a form of awareness. "It's alive," Hayes whispered. "I've never seen anything like this." The crew exchanged nervous glances. They were trained to face alien attacks, but this was different. This was intelligence, an intelligence that did not attack them, even though it could. Back on John Carter's ship, discussions began about the possibility of communicating more directly. "We can't just wait," John said. "If this is human, maybe they will respond if we try the right way."
We need to understand them.
Elisa Moore nodded.
I agree.
"But we have no record of humans building ships like this. If we try to communicate directly, we need to be careful. One wrong move, and they could see us as a threat." Alex Bennett worked tirelessly on decoding the signals. Slowly, patterns emerged, sequences that resembled language, though not one the Empire had catalogued. He shared his findings with John and Lisa. "It's rudimentary," Alex said, "but it's human logic. It's like they're testing us, observing us, and waiting for us to understand." "Human or not," John said, rubbing his face, "we are dealing with a power we cannot fight. We need to learn what they want." In the following days, the monster ship made a movement that startled the fleet. It sent small drones, small and fast, toward damaged Imperial cruisers. At first, the fleet thought they were weapons, but the drones did not fire. They hovered, examining systems, repairing shields and engines, and then vanished. Officers watched in disbelief. One of them muttered, "It could destroy us all, and instead, it heals us." The meaning was clear. This was not a warship meant to conquer. It was something else, something more intelligent, more deliberate. The Empire began to realize that the monster ship operated on a set of principles entirely unknown to them. It could destroy fleets, but it chose not to. It could disable ships, but it often left them unharmed. Its patience and restraint were terrifying because they implied understanding, judgment, and control. John called a meeting with his senior officers. "We are not facing a normal enemy," he said. "We are facing something aware, intelligent, and possibly human. We need to approach this carefully. One wrong move could mean the destruction of everything in this sector." Lisa Moore added, "Sir, if this is human, they may be testing us. We need to show restraint."
We need to show that we are not a threat. As they continued to study the ship, The Empire's scientists made a shocking discovery.
Some materials in the ship's hull were of human origin, alloys and compounds long considered lost to time. Energy readings showed technology far beyond anything humans were thought to have achieved. The Empire was forced to confront an impossible truth. A species they had dismissed, humans, had built a vessel capable of challenging their entire fleet. The revelation spread quickly through the Empire. Officers, historians, and diplomats debated the implications. How could humans, a species so small and scattered, have built something like this? Historians like Emma Wright began to dig into old records, looking for lost knowledge of human engineering and philosophy. She found references to a principle long forgotten. Humans always built for survival, for endurance, and for adaptability. They did not need speed, or weapons, or elegance. They needed durability, resilience, and control. The monster ship embodied that principle perfectly. Even the Empire's High Council began to fear what they did not understand. Fleets were no longer seen as invincible. Colonies trembled at the idea that humans could wield such power. Every officer in the outer sectors wondered, if humans had built this, what else could they do? And why had they waited so long to show it? On board John Carter's ship, the tension was constant. Every morning he walked the observation deck, staring at the monitors showing the monster ship gliding silently through space. He could not shake the feeling that it was aware of every thought in the fleet, that it could see their fear and measure their resolve. And in many ways, he realized, it was stronger than any weapon. It had patience, intelligence, and restraint. It could destroy, but it chose not to. One day, a small probe was sent closer to the monster ship, equipped with cameras and scanners. The data it returned shocked everyone. Crew members, human in appearance, moved inside the massive ship. They were small compared to the vessel, but active, deliberate, and focused. John Carter could not believe what he saw. Humans? He muttered. The images confirmed Lisa Moore's suspicions. Humans were piloting this monster. Humans had built it, controlled it, and now they were testing the Empire. The realization spread quickly. The Empire's officers struggled to understand what it meant. Humans were not supposed to be capable of this. They were not supposed to build fleets, not supposed to challenge the Empire. And yet, here they were, not attacking, not conquering, but simply existing, reminding the Empire that power did not always come from aggression. It came from patience, intelligence, and the ability to make choices. As the days turned into weeks, communication efforts intensified. John Carter ordered a cautious approach, sending signals that were polite, respectful, and non-threatening. The monster ship responded in kind, not with words, but with patterns, movements, and signals that slowly began to make sense. Analysts like Alex Bennett worked around the clock, decoding the sequences, finding traces of human reasoning. The Empire began to understand that this was not a random force. It was deliberate. It was intelligent. It was human. The fear in the fleet shifted. It was no longer just fear of destruction. It was fear of understanding. Humans, long dismissed, had built a vessel that could challenge the Empire itself, and the Empire had to confront a terrifying question. If humans could build this, and if humans could choose not to destroy them, what else were they capable of? John Carter watched the monster ship slowly glide past his fleet, drones repairing damaged cruisers, energy pulses scanning the fleet, and humans moving inside the vessel. He realized that the Empire had been wrong about humans. They were not weak. They were patient, intelligent, and powerful in ways the Empire had never imagined. And most terrifying of all, they were deliberate. They could destroy, they could conquer, they could fight, but they chose not to. For the first time in generations, the Empire felt small. It felt fragile. It felt mortal, and the monster ship, silent and deliberate, gliding through the void, had shown them the meaning of true power. The monster ship moved slowly through the edge of Imperial space, its massive silhouette gliding silently against the dark canvas of stars. Fleets followed cautiously, keeping a safe distance, every commander aware that even a single misstep could bring destruction. Captain John Carter studied the monitors, eyes narrowing at the images from probes and scans. The ship was enormous, far larger than any Imperial battleship, but it was more than its size that made it terrifying. It moved with purpose, with intelligence, and with patience. Every movement seemed deliberate, every adjustment precise. Lisa Moore and Alex Bennett worked day and night analyzing data. Each scan revealed materials unknown to the Empire, alloys and compounds that seemed impossible, yet clearly functional. Energy signatures showed systems beyond anything the Empire had catalogued. The monster ship could disable fleets, repair itself, and operate with a level of efficiency that seemed almost alive. And slowly, the analysts began to notice something unexpected. Beneath the massive structure, inside the ship, small movements appeared on sensors. Crew members, human in shape, moving with calm efficiency, controlling the vessel from inside. John Carter could hardly believe it. Humans? He whispered, leaning over the console. They built this? Lisa Moore nodded, her expression tense. It seems so. They are operating it.
They are human. Captain, this changes everything.
Humans were dismissed by the Empire as weak, scattered, insignificant, and yet, here they are, controlling a vessel that could destroy us in minutes. The realization spread quickly through the fleet. Officers who had grown up believing humans were unimportant suddenly felt a deep unease. For centuries, humans had been ignored. They had colonies on fringe planets, small settlements, weak militaries, and now they had built a ship that dwarfed the Empire's strongest fleets. The Empire was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Humans were far stronger, far smarter, and far more capable than anyone had believed. John Carter ordered a closer approach, though cautiously. A small reconnaissance cruiser moved ahead, scanning the monster ship with care. The sensors picked up dozens of human figures moving inside, working together in a way that was seamless, almost instinctive. It was clear that the ship was not automated entirely. Humans were controlling it, guiding its movements, repairing its systems, and operating its defenses. The Empire had never seen anything like it. One day, the monster ship made a deliberate maneuver. It released drones toward damaged Imperial cruisers. The fleet braced for attack, but the drones did not fire. Instead, they hovered near the ships, scanning, repairing, and then retreating. John Carter stared at the monitors. They could destroy every vessel here, he said quietly. And yet, they help. Lisa Moore nodded. They are testing us, yes, but they are not attacking us. This is human behavior. Deliberate, cautious, intelligent. The Empire began to attempt direct communication. Every standard protocol, every signal, every coded message was sent. For hours, there was no reply. Then, finally, a response came not in language, but in patterns. Sequences of signals that Alex Bennett studied obsessively. Slowly, he began to decode them. They followed logic, reasoning, and thought patterns that matched human intelligence. The humans were not just controlling the ship. They were communicating, testing the Empire, trying to understand them. John Carter called a meeting with his senior officers. "We are dealing with something we cannot fight," he said. "They are human, yes, but not like any humans we have known. This ship is controlled by a crew that thinks like us, plans like us, and yet is stronger than anything we have built. We must be careful. One wrong move, and we could lose everything." Emma Wright, the Empire's historian, had been researching old human records, long dismissed as unimportant. "They are cautious, deliberate, and intelligent. This is a species we underestimated for centuries, and we paid the price in fear." She paused. "We must respect them. Not just because they are powerful, but because they have shown restraint. They are the only species in this galaxy capable of terrifying us without violence." John Carter felt a strange relief mixed with anxiety. He had lived decades in the Empire, commanding fleets, studying enemy tactics, and winning battles. Yet nothing had prepared him for this. Humans had changed the rules of power. They had reminded the galaxy that strength was not always measured by weapons or numbers, but by intelligence, patience, and choice. The Empire had learned that lesson, and it was humbling. Communication with the human ship had slowly improved. Alex Bennett and Lisa Moore had worked tirelessly decoding signals and identifying patterns. They discovered that the humans aboard the monster ship had a leader, Commander Ryan Cole. He was a calm, intelligent officer, observing the Empire's actions and sending back signals that reflected understanding and cautious engagement. It was clear that he did not seek conflict, but he was prepared for it. Every move the Empire made was met with measured response, never aggression, always observation. John Carter requested a meeting with the humans, not in person, but through secure channels. He was careful with every word. "We acknowledge your power," he said. "We have seen what you can do. And we wish to learn from you, not fight you." The response from the monster ship was surprising. A simple pattern of signals, decoded by Alex, that translated roughly into a message of peace. "We do not seek war. We test only to understand. We defend only when necessary. We are willing to share knowledge with those who respect life and restraint." The Empire realized that this was unprecedented.